Many of us accept the first number we are offered, not because we are happy with it, but because we are afraid to ask for more. Today, let's talk about how to change your salary without fear. Hi, I am Marian. Every week, we share lessons from my own experience and from my book, Breaking Through the Immigrants Handbook for Thriving in the American Workplace, to help you navigate cultural differences with confidence, with wisdom, and grace. In this series, what we are calling negotiation, I have Mrs. Hennither Bianca Gant, a hiring specialist. Hi, Hennither, a hiring specialist and entrepreneur. She will share expert advice on negotiation. HenniB, as I call her and as people call her, welcome to Breaking Through Community, Breaking Through Conversation. Give us a quick introduction and then we'll dive into our two questions for this session.
Awesome. I am so excited to be back. Thank you so much for inviting me. Extremely excited. So my background has been in HR for almost about 18 years now. And I've been in the world of hiring and firing and training and coaching and all of the things. And one of the things I have absolutely honed in on is the conversations around what it takes to actually bring quality people in the organization and what usually happens when people are escorted out. So I utilize some of those tips and strategies that I've been able to gain and bring them back to the general public, and with insider secrets of what HR doesn't tell you, and make sure your workforce development. So that's a little bit about me. I am the founder of Career Image Solutions, where we do specialize in all things hiring and workforce development for people, as well as workplaces that desire to be the best in class. So again, extremely excited to be here and glad to hop into this topic today.
Thank you so much. You bring a wealth of experience. So let's get into the questions. When you see someone who is about to accept their first US job or their first major role, what are the key things you advise them to ask or research before they accept?
Such a good question. This is the thing when especially the first role in the US, people are just excited, right? Like, oh, I got a job, but they don't necessarily count the full cost. And what I mean by that is that it's not just what they're paying you, it's the things that you may not necessarily see on your paycheck, right? So one of the things that I like to encourage folks to do is to look at the full cost of what it's going to take for you to actually even get there, number one. So how far is it? How far is it? What's your transportation going to be? I remember my mother, as an immigrant to this country, one of the things she often reminds me of is how many buses she had to take after she had me. She didn't have a vehicle, and she had to literally take so many buses to go get a cleaning job and take so many buses to come home. And in fact, found herself in danger's way because of not counting that cost of just simply transportation. What's the commute like, right? And I know that sounds really simple, but if your commute is an hour and a half, both ways, for example, count the cost with gas. Count the cost with, do you have children, other obligations? Is that really going to work with your lifestyle? So again, simple, but very important. Another thing that I always like to ask people about, remind people about, especially with counting the costs, is to understand the full value of their offer, right? So total compensation. Is this including any benefits? Is it including any training? Is this just the initial rate of pay for the first 3 months? Just because someone gives you a rate of pay right away doesn't mean that that has to be your permanent rate of pay. We don't have enough time to go into that today, but those are some things you want to take into consideration. What are the benefits? And here's the thing though, Marian, is when we're talking about benefits, especially those that are new to the US, we get really excited about, oh, they're offering benefits, but we don't take into consideration the cost that we are paying for the benefits. You see, employers pay a percentage and an employees pay a percentage. So someone offering benefits alone, sometimes it's not all what it's cracked up to be. Next thing you know, you're an employee and you're paying way more than you thought you would pay that's coming out of your take-home pay. So you really want to look at total compensation, initially counting the cost for those external things that you might not consider, and then also looking at the total compensation as well. Those are the first few things that I would definitely recommend that new immigrants look at.
Whoa, count the costs. How far, how many buses? We don't, let me just say this quick story. When I first came to the US, driving from JFK to Maryland, and I was like, where are the buses? Where are the buses? Because having lived in Ghana, of course, and then in Spain and then in London, there were buses all along the way. But I realized that in the US, it's not the same, depending on which city that you live in or even which state. So thank you for reminding us about that. Count the cost. What is the total compensation? Really, really good point. Okay. So, in my book, Breaking Through the Immigrant Handbook, I share how I failed to negotiate my very first job, first salary. I didn't negotiate. And I remember the principal investigator, for some reason, after I was so happy to get a job anyway. And then after I went back to him just before I started, and he said, well, that's a lesson. Next time, anytime you receive a job, a job offer, make sure you negotiate. He was kind enough to give me $500 more. But tell us, what are the most common mistakes you see first-time negotiators and even some seasoned folks make, especially immigrants and career-driven professionals, and how they can avoid them?
Yes. Oh, goodness. I definitely remember that story in the book. And I would say just that very mistake that you made, just accepting the offer too quickly. It's okay. Really, like the standard practice is around 2 days. Some organizations will allow even 3 days. So it's okay to say, can I get back to you? It's okay to say that. In fact, most HR professionals, most hiring officials in the US, they're used to that. They should be used to it. Now, I will say there are some organizations that will put their foot down and say, we need you, we need the answer right away. So you do have to be prepared for those situations. But generally speaking, you can say, hey, can I get back to you? So answering too quickly is definitely the first thing. Okay. Because when you give yourself time, you get to kind of go back to mentors and coaches and go back to, Marian, call her, email her and say, hey, what should I do? So again, just kind of gives you some more confidence. And when you're not clear, we're usually lacking confidence. And when we have confidence, we usually exude with clarity. Right. So just something to consider. The other thing is not necessarily knowing their market worth. So one of the things I found at one particular period of time, I worked for a staffing agency, and we came across so many people. And for those that don't know what a staffing agency is, essentially employers reach out to the agency, and the whole job of the staffing agency is to fill positions with the best person. And every time a person is filled, or anytime a position is filled with a person, the agency gets a large sum of money for that person working that job.
Okay.
So while lots of people were coming in, you can imagine to fill one role, I had to interview quite a few people. And in interviewing so many people, I realized that there were a lot of people who, again, were so excited about the job, but they didn't know how to display their worth, especially those that were first time to the US. And even those who were born in the US, to be quite honest, right? But definitely saw that. And what I mean by that is that because they didn't know how to articulate themselves on paper, i.e. the resume or the interview, the offer was based off of how they presented themselves, right? So when it came time for, the offer, they would just say, okay, let me just take it, forgetting that they actually bring more to the table. Think about the experience that you had in your home country. Think about all of the things that you can bring to the table, really demonstrating your value and your worth. And again, depending on your field of study and your career path, sometimes you have to work with a career coach to kind of pull that out of you. But not knowing your market worth is extremely detrimental when it's time for negotiation. So, but you can use tools like salary.com. I prefer something called ONET, which is a government tool that allows you to see the keywords, job descriptions, duties, salary by zip code, areas. But ONET is one of my favorite ones. And you could at least start there. So that way, when it's time for you to negotiate and or interview before even the offer is presented, at least you can it could give you some language on how to demonstrate your market value.
Wow. Hey.
Yeah.
Can I get back to you? A powerful question. You
Yeah.
can use, can I get back to you?
Yes.
Know that what you're worth, your market worth, know it, do your research. And you mentioned salary.com. These are powerful, powerful tips and strategies that we can all use. And remember, your salary isn't just a number. It's a reflection of how you value your skills and your experience. Bianca, HenniB, thank you so much. I know we are going to continue this conversation, so thank you so much. If this conversation helped you think differently about negotiation, please like this video, subscribe, leave a comment, share it with someone who is stepping into their next big opportunity. Don't let fear decide your paycheck. Preparation and confidence will. And you can watch our video using AI to prepare for interviews. But Bianca, thank you very much, and we will see you in the next session.